And welcome to the NL Full-Time Podcast. Believe it or not, this is the start of our 11th season covering the three national leagues. For those of you that haven't heard or seen this podcast before, we are a weekly podcast that cover the three national leagues and nothing else, just the three national leagues. We have a regular team of four who I will introduce in just a moment. But this season, for the first time, we're really excited to announce that we've also put together a wider fan panel. We've got a supporter, a journalist, or a content creator from each one of the 24 National League clubs. From time to time, we'll invite them onto the podcast to join us, especially when there's a key news story or crazy result perhaps affecting their team. We will also have regular guests, including managers and players from the National League. All right, on to us then as a team. I'm Rob Worrell. I'm the regular host of the podcast. I'm an Aldershot Town supporter for over 50 years. Yeah, I know that's at least twice what I would have got for murder, but not to worry. I'm also a BBC commentator with 10 years experience for BBC Surrey Sport. On then to Joe Pope, who will occasionally post, or he might even occasionally host the podcast in my absence. Joe, perhaps you can introduce yourself and the long list of the many hats that you wear.
Yeah, good to be back on, Rob. I run Off the Line blog on Twitter, dedicated to all things EFL and National League. And as of the summer, I am also the head of recruitment at Hemel Hempstead Town as well.
In the National League South, of course. And Joe, you're being very modest, really. You're also a published author as of a year or so ago now, wasn't it? Tell our listeners and viewers about your book.
Yeah, a year ago I had a book come out called Diamonds in the Rough, looking at players that have started in non-league and worked their way up to the upper echelons of the pyramid, be it in the EFL, the Premier League, or on the international front. Spoke to some players and managers about their journeys along the way. And yeah, been out for a year or so now. So if that floats your boat and you want to see some more about non-league, then go and check it out.
It's a very interesting read, listeners, and I should know because I read every bloody word of it because I was helping him with the editing. Here's our third member of the team tonight, and one who has something published every week, pretty much. Richard Dicky Wharton.
Yeah, good evening and good evening, everybody. Yes, I'm more of a short form contributor than Joe. I write primarily on AFC Telford United of the National League North for the local newspaper, the Shropshire Star. I also summarise and commentate for BBC Radio Shropshire as well, and I have a voluntary role with the club doing some stuff with them as well. So yeah, a variety of hats. The same as Joe, really, but yeah, just some slight differences.
Great stuff, Dickie. The fourth member of our team is not with us at the moment. It's Christian James. He is the PA announcer at Boston United, at Boston Stats on Twitter. And he's also very sporty and either playing or on his way back from cricket right now. Christian may or may not join us towards the end of this podcast, but certainly he'll be joining us regularly throughout the season. Okay, a little bit more then on our fan panel, because that's new for this season. We currently have a supporter, a media person, or a content creator from 22 of the 24 National League clubs already signed, sealed, and delivered, and we've already got them working hard as well on their predictions for the new season. However, if you're watching or listening to this and you support Eastleigh or Gateshead, and you'd like to be the fan panel representative for that club or for those clubs, one of those clubs, drop us a follow and a DM at NL Fulltime on X, or you can email us at nlfulltimerecordings@gmail.com. And we'd love to have you join us. We'd love to have a full complement of supporters from all the 24 National League clubs. To those of you watching who support teams in the North and the South, It is our intention to widen the fan panel to those divisions as well. But we need to start somewhere. We need to walk before we run. And we're going to see how things go with that one. All right, let's get started then with our season preview pod. Yeah, it's the one that you can keep. You can keep this recording. You can get it out at Christmas, or you can get it out at the end of the season, and you could have a damn good laugh at us, because we're potentially now going to make the biggest fools of ourselves in predicting what's probably the most unpredictable league in football. Only one place to start, chaps, and that is with the potential title contenders. We've never ever done this before and already had the views on board of a wide section, cross section of National League club supporters. We've got that tonight. So before I even go to my predictions or Dickie's or Joe's, let's hear what you guys had to say. In short, there are realistically only 4 clubs that, between our fan panel representatives, you realistically feel could challenge for the title. There's a 5th that's been predicted once, and that's Harrogate Town. But each of these 4 clubs, several people have said may win the National League. Boreham Wood, Carlisle, Hartlepool and Southend. Before I go any further, straight, quick, yes or no question, Dickie and Joe, are you going to talk about a team that could win the title outside of those 4?
No, I'm not.
Okay. So that's what we're looking at. Boreham Wood, Carlisle, Hartlepool and Southend. Before we talk about them in more detail, I'm going for Carlisle, and I'll tell you why in a minute. Who are you going for, Joe?
I am going for Boreham Wood.
And Dickie, who are you going for?
I've gone for Boreham Wood also.
Brilliant. Okay, that makes for a good discussion. It's fair to say that more of our fan panel predicted Boreham Wood to win the league than anybody else. Clearly, it's based on a fantastic season last season, 90 points, getting to the playoff final. I think, in most people's opinion, being the better side in the playoff final, but not getting across the line. And some astute signings, of course, through the summer. Joe, let me start with you. I'm sure Dickie will have some points to complement them. But why are you going for Boreham Wood?
Yeah, so as it stands at the time of recording, they still do have Abdul Malik, player who obviously we expected may well move on this summer, but Boreham Wood seems steadfast in their belief that they are going to keep hold of him. And if they do, that's obviously a massive factor. They've got a squad, a nucleus of which has been in the playoffs before, done well, obviously, last season in the playoffs. In getting to the final. Missing out on that occasion, but they go into the season, I feel, with a better squad than they finished last season. They've made a couple of really astute additions defensively. Tyler Golden, the pick of those, who I think is a real pickup from Altrincham. And there's always going to be the question mark for me with Boreham Wood as to whether or not they can keep a small squad competitive. You know, they are one of the teams that has probably the smallest squad over a season, but they keep finding a way to do that. They've got experience in there. They've obviously got the playoff specialist himself in Callum Reynolds, and they've got a lovely mix of experience and youth. They've obviously got the goals of Matt Rush, and all of the signings they've made this summer I've been quite impressed with. So I think they are well placed to improve on last season. They got very, very close to getting promoted last season. And I think this season they will just provide that little bit of improvement to get over the line.
Dickie, things can change very quickly. We understand an initial bid of 750,000 has been tabled for Abdul Malik. And the club that's tabled that bid likely to probably extend that, as Boreham would no doubt turn it down. Anything to add to Joe's extensive list of reasons why Boreham Wood might just win the title, particularly perhaps with the manager who's been there, seen it, done it, hasn't he?
Yeah, and it would be the managerial factor for me in Luke Garrard, in that, you know, he's taken them there to the playoff final twice and lost out now, and you know they haven't. Yes, we know they had the season where they went down, and I think that was prompted a little bit by the fact that they had a bit of a talent drain because they'd done so well in the FA Cup the year before and suffered that problem, didn't they? But listen, if they're in a position to be able to turn down a £750,000 bid, then they're not doing too badly, are they? And if Abdul Malik is eventually tempted away, then I suppose the difficulty is that other teams will know they've got that money there and can perhaps, name their price or put their price a little bit higher for anybody they might want to sign. But I would still be fairly confident that they could replace him fairly adequately. They just seem a really, really well-rounded group. I think they've got a little bit of everything. I think they can play the game in a variety of different ways. And that Galrad factor, I think, is really big for them. So yeah, that's why I didn't look too far away from them when I was looking for a champion.
Well, I'm going to be honest in two respects. When I first looked at my 1 to 24 hours ago, I had Boreham Wood first. I also believe on their day, and I said it several times on this podcast and the Absolute Football podcast, that on their day, they are the best team. But the reason I've gone for Carlisle, a big squad, a big fan base, a quality squad, the opportunity to strengthen again at Christmas or whenever, when required, and slightly unknown factor, but a manager who has an extremely good record in this division, albeit with a smaller, lower budget side on the eastern coast up north, rather than where he's at now. There is an element of an unknown quantity about how Rob Elliott will do at Carlisle, but I don't see anything in the squad he's got, the infrastructure he's got, the fan base he's got, to suggest that he can't succeed there. And it's that's overwhelmingly steering me towards Carlisle. Joe will know, and Dickie, you'll remember, year in, year out, I think Boreham Wood, they're very, very effective. And they have a lot of experience and they have strength across the team, but they don't have a huge squad. They never had a huge squad. And I just don't know how year in, year out they manage to stay so injury free. Last year, they proved they could do it. They could do it, couldn't they? All the way, 90 points. Phenomenal achievement from Luke Garrard. But if I remember rightly, over all of these seasons, they have been quite fortunate with injury. And that's huge kudos to their sports science team, to their medical staff, to what they invest as a football club into that, which I know is probably more advanced than a lot of the clubs in the division. But that's it. I mean, listen, there's nothing in it. And I think at this stage, we have to bring in the third team most kind of pipped to be up there from our fan panel, and that's Southend United. And I'm just going to say the reason I've got them in the top three, but not to win the title, is different to last year. Last year, I felt under help me.
Kevin Mayer.
Mayer, sorry. Under Kev Mayer. I felt that they were just a little bit too passive, keeping the ball very well, but not penetrating as much, maybe having too many draws. And I felt that's why they'd make the playoffs and not win the league. This year, they've had a high player turnover and they've got a new manager who's an unknown quantity. I can see a scenario where Southend win the league, but there's just too many uncertainties for me with the amount of new players and with a manager that's not proven as yet. Joe, is that fair comment? And can you also see a scenario where if the team clicks and the manager clicks, they could be right in the race?
Yes, I could see a scenario in which it does come together, because I think the signings that they've made on paper have been good. I think you've got to factor in the fact that they have lost a lot of players from last season's squad. This is a very different Southend to the one that took to the field last season. They've lost Gus Scott-Morris, they've lost Keenan Appiah-Forson, they've lost Colin Andeng and D. Harry Boys is set to depart after they have accepted a bid for him as well. And there is talk that Leon Chambers-Perillion will also be moving on. So I think it's a very different Southend. I do like the business they've done. I think my prediction of where I had Southend given how strongly you favour them for Southend, Rob, will be a bit of a surprise in that I don't actually have them in my top 7.
Wow.
But I do see a world in which it does come together, because the component parts of the squad that they've put together, you would say, yeah, there's the ingredients there that could be a successful team. But I just don't see enough personally in Kieran Dyer. As you say, a very unknown quantity, never managed at this level. Yes, he was at Chesterfield when they won promotion, but for as much of the critics that Kevin Mayer got, he got them into the playoffs, 2 seasons. So I think that Dyer's got a lot to live up to, a lot of expectation, and I think they may just fall short. But I do agree that it could, if they get it right, see them compete for promotion.
Dickie, 2 questions to you. Anything to add specifically on Southend? And let's move on, and you can go first, to who you believe will be. We called it technically on the form runners-up. I think what we're really saying is who's going to win the playoffs.
Yes, I mean that probably might have been the way I haven't gone for Southend in that one. A bit like Joe, I won't say concerns is the right word, but you're always aware of that factor when, they've had upheaval there. I think there was even some suggestion certainly when we were at the FA Trophy final, not that there were financial constraints at Southend, that they're not necessarily wishing or are able to push the envelope any further than they have at the moment. So that has alarm bells ringing for me in terms of their playoff participation. So I've put them outside as well. I've gone for Carlisle United to finish second. Whether they would subsequently be playoff winners after that, I don't know. But I think they are, pretty much for reasons that you think they'll be winners, Rob. I think they will be up there. But I just think the expectation factor at Carlisle can weigh a bit heavily sometimes. I think we did see a little bit of that in the playoffs, really, as well. So that's the reason why I've gone for them in second place.
All right. Well, look, I'll just be clear about it. We've said everything we need to about Boreham Wood. I'm going for them to finish second and to get to Wembley for a 3rd time and prevail this time. What about you, Joe?
Yeah, so in terms of actually who I think would win the playoffs from the teams that I've picked in there, it would be one that we'll come on to later, in the team I actually think will finish 7th. But in terms of who I think will finish as the best of the rest, I've actually gone for Forest Green. I like what they've done in the summer. Last season, I thought they lacked pace and power, very reliant on technical quality. There's been a clear focus this summer from Robbie Savage to bring in good athletes and add some pace to the side. Obviously, we're going to see a full season, touch wood, of Ricardo Reis injury-free, which I think will be a real handful at this level. And they've managed to pick off a couple of players from local or rivals in their playoff push, in the likes of Ollie Ewing from Scunthorpe, who I think will do really well. They've also signed James Berry from Wickham, who I think's slightly gone under the radar. I feel a really good addition. Shouldn't really be back in non-league after his spell with Macclesfield. And I think Robbie Savage will have learnt from last season, for all the praise that he did give himself and that side. There was definitely room for improvement. And I think with the additions that they've made and the quality of them, I can see them getting second. Whether they win the playoffs, I'm not quite sure on that one, but I think they will finish second.
All right, nice one. The other team, whilst we're just finalising things on the potential title winners that none of us 3 have gone for, but some of our fan panel have, is Hartlepool. I'm just going to flip back and see where I've got them finishing. I've got them finishing 5th. There's a little bit of an unknown quantity in terms of their manager, who's another name from the Premier League past. A little bit of an unknown factor. What's not unknown is they've got new ownership, great backing, and clearly an excellent budget, Joe.
Yeah, they have. Certainly the infrastructure and the tools that you'd want to be successful, they've got. I've been really impressed with Landon Smith so far since he's come in. Certainly actions over words, real progress at Hartlepool off the pitch. On it, they've assembled a really good squad. the likes of Will Harris joining from FC Halifax when he looked like he probably would be moving into the Football League is a real coup and statement of intent. And the fact they've picked up players like Jordan Hugill as well, who not too long ago West Ham was shelling out nearly £10 million on in the Premier League. So, yeah, I do still have, like you probably, Rob, I think 1 or 2 question marks over Lee Clark. It's very easy to come into a team at Rotherham, as he did last year, who are virtually dead and buried, and you're there for a month or so, and you can really just, you've got nothing to lose. There's a different pressure on him at Hartlepool. He's got to go and win games. There'll be an expectation on him to have more of the ball than he did last year. And given the money that they've spent and the signings they've made, it's not going to be one of those where, they're happy for a top half finish with a, sniff of a playoff push. They're going to be wanting to go for that title. So, yeah, they're in my mix. I actually had them third in my predictions. I think they'll finish in third. I think they will improve on last season. Whether or not they'll do it to the tune of getting promoted, I'm not quite sure.
A little bit of detail around Hartlepool's squad. They've kept 11 players and they've signed a huge, I'm having to add these up here, 12, 16, 18 players. Some of the names that stand out, Jack Nolan, huge shine in that. What a wonderful player he is. I think many of us felt that he was a player above this level. Stood out like a sore thumb at Morecambe. Chris Popov as well, also making that move. And Cameron John from York City. Of course, he was there on loan last season as well. And Will Harris, as Joe has mentioned. Dickie, where have you got Hartlepool finishing? I bet they're in your top 7.
They're not. They've actually got them in 8th. I wish, and there's a part of me, you're being quite persuasive in making me think I should have put them a bit higher, but I'll explain the reasons behind my not having them there, and it's really just out of a desire to include somebody else there, really. But yeah, I mean, they've certainly done really, really good business there, haven't they? Made me laugh there when you say about Jordan Hugill. I think West Ham probably would have paid £5 million for me, to be honest. So, but no, I mean, I do expect them to go well. I think they'll certainly be up there, but I've just got them being just edged out.
Fair enough. I think when we come to talking about runners up, it's pretty much the same 4 teams that are being mentioned, perhaps just in a different order from our fan panel. Fair to say that in terms of 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th place, there are a number of teams that just keep reoccurring. Probably high time that we each go to the remaining teams we haven't talked about in our top 7. So I've got Carlisle 1st, Boreham Wood 2nd, Southend 3rd, Forest Green 4th. Pretty similar, perhaps, to last season. I slightly disagree with you, Joe, in that when I watched Forest Green, which was on 4 occasions in person last season, I felt they had an awful lot of athletes and not enough technical quality. So you and I maybe have a conversation offline about that one. But I've got them finishing 4th. Hartlepool already mentioned 5th. And then we get on to a couple of teams, both beginning with S, that I've got 6th and 7th. A lot of me thinks that Scunthorpe they did so well in their first season up, and it could be a difficult second season. A lot of me thinks that they'll be competitive and they'll be up there. And the biggest concern and the biggest pull for me not to put them in the top 7 was the loss of Callum Roberts. And, even when I went up to Glanford Park last season, I spoke to supporters before and after for the podcast. They said, we've been pretty average. It's just Callum Roberts has done stuff, So there is a big question mark about me putting Scunthorpe in the top 7. But I've done it anyway because I'm probably more sure about them than anybody else. And I've also put Sutton United in because I spoke personally with Chris Agata about his initial time there last season. He knew very clearly, with a lot of clarity, what he didn't have. And what he didn't have was a bit of experience. And my goodness me, he signed some in the summer. And I think there's an expectation at that football club and for Chris Agata to make those playoffs this season with Sutton United. And I'd want to be asking questions, if they don't, with the squad they've signed. That's my remaining clubs in the top 7. Joe, over to you.
Yeah, well, it's certainly a surprise for me. But yeah, I could see potentially why you would go with Sutton. I personally feel they're a little way off yet in terms of having the squad available to push for that top 7. But in terms of my predictions, Bournemouth in first, Forest Green in second, Hartlepool in third, Carlisle in fourth. As to the remaining 3 teams, who we actually haven't talked about yet, in fifth, I've gone for Barrow. Obviously, Adam Murray, formerly of Kidderminster, now in charge. The fact that he's been able to turn his hand to virtually whatever environment he's gone into, be it at Kidderminster or Eastbourne, really impressed with the work that he's done. Never usually the most free scoring, but certainly the signs that have come out of pre-season so far have been that they are very hard working, very physical, and will certainly work hard for their points. Always defensively strong. I think there's players who perhaps last year underperformed in League Two who I think will be really good this season. The notable of which being Ben Whitfield. As a Torquay fan, I always like to see Ben Whitfield. And yeah, I think the investment that they've done, there was a clear need for them to improve defensively, and the bulk of their work has been that. So I think they will finish up in fifth. As for sixth, I have gone for, as correctly predicted offline by Rob, for Yeovil Town. I think Billy Rowley knew very quickly when he came in that it was all about just trying to stay up and that he didn't have a squad that was suited to him. Well, he does no longer have that argument. He's had the benefit of a summer to bring in players that are suited to the way that he wants to play, a number of which obviously have come with him from Walton and Hersham, the likes of Mason Obeng. And he's added a lot of technical players. He's rebuilt the defence, and Yeovil as a club are now giving out 2 and 3 year contracts to players from as far as Scarborough in Stephen Walker, moving all the way down to the southwest. So I think with the benefit of the players that they've brought in, I personally feel that Jamie Hedges is a better recruiter than the output showed at Aldershot at times. And I think with the benefit of a summer, we will see a much better Yeovil Town team take to the field this summer and this season. So I've got them in sixth. As for seventh, which I think is going to be my surprise package, and he isn't here yet, I've gone for Boston United. So yeah, I've gone for Boston United. I think in terms of the things that I would look for in a, there's always going to be a surprise in the playoffs every season, and I think Boston have got the hallmarks of potentially being that. They've got a manager that's proven, that's been there, that's done it, that's won promotion before. They've brought in a lot of players that improves the squad. Jamie Grimes and Niall Canavan, 2 really experienced centre halves. They've managed to keep Tom Curzons at the time of writing, so I don't think, even though Christian feels they may potentially struggle for goals, I think they will have goals at the top end of the pitch in Tom Curzons.
Just got to go to the shop as well, haven't they?
Yeah, in Lionel John Lewis, who obviously got promoted with Paul Hurst at Grimsby. So they've added a lot of business early on. I've been really impressed with the work that they've done. And I don't actually think you've got to be that good, just consistent and really difficult to beat. And I think Paul Hurst is a really good coach. And if there's going to be a surprise package, why not Boston?
Yeah, fair shout, Joe. I'll give you full credit on that. I'll also give you a more considered opinion in around about 8 or 9 days' time, because the shots kick off as Christian and I both know very well against each other. Dickie, have you come up with some similar or some different names in your remaining top 7?
Bit of a mix of both, really. So obviously I went for Boreham Wood to win it. Carlisle second. Forest Green Rovers third for me. I think the biggest drawback for them is they're probably running out of players from Macclesfield that they can sign. And Macclesfield have got enough money to fend them off now as well. So that might be a problem for them. I've gone for Barrow in there as well. I get the feeling Barrow are really smarting over their relegation last season, that not that they didn't deserve to be relegated because the table doesn't lie, but they're just I think they're really keen to right a wrong as they see it. That's how it feels to me. I think they'll be up there. I also think Harrogate might contend as well. I mean, I've gone for them in fifth. This is where my Hartlepool not being in the playoffs is probably going to come into fairly sharp relief. I think there's always a team that's been promoted that does well. And I looked at the promoted sides, and I think Worthing could do really well. Just because there's no fear factor in Adam Hinshelwood's teams. I think they just go out and play. We know that they score an awful lot of goals. I think they could be up there. I think they can just carry on that momentum that they've had. They finally got to where they've wanted to be for a little while. And as I say, with Adam Hinshelwood as gaffer and the way they play, I just there's a bit of the romantic in me, I guess. Probably heart over head ruling that one, but that's why I've gone for them. And in my seventh place, I saw them yesterday. I've gone for Tamworth. Tamworth have actually got some additional investment going in this year under new ownership. And we had a look yesterday, and you looked at the players that weren't involved in their final pre-season game against Mount Telford side yesterday. And we were actually, looking and thinking that not exactly an embarrassment of riches, but they've strengthened. I get the feeling that the investment means that perhaps Andy Peakes isn't going to have to stick to that tried and trusted Tamworth method. They'll still be awkward. They'll still be hard to play against. I don't think they will lose that completely, but I get the feeling they might be trying to just change the way they are a little bit. And I think they've added a great forward in Kieran Donnelly. We saw what he did helping Kidderminster to promotion last season. And again, I think it would just be a progression for them. They've kind of been 10th, 11th. I think each of the first two seasons they've been back up there. I think with the money that's gone in there, I just feel that they could do it.
Brilliant stuff. Just very quickly, lads, just probably 30 seconds each. Who have you got as near misses? I've actually gone for Barrow 8th and Harrogate 9th. And it's just so difficult when coming down. Of course, with Barrow and with Harrogate, they've been at this level before. It's not the brutal shock that it is for the teams that have been floating around the EFL for years. I'm just not quite sure. I think I've got huge respect for Simon Weaver. Of course, he's been really supportive of this podcast in the past, and he said he'll come on again, of course, when the opportunity arises this season. I think they'll be top 10 for sure. I'm just a bit uncertain. I haven't seen much of them, and I'm not sure. And I definitely think, Joe, that you're on the right lines with Barrow under Adam Murray. I've got them finishing 8th. And funny enough, Dickie, you're not alone, because I think Worthing will have a massive free hit this season. Adam Hinshelwood knows what he's doing. I think they'll pick up an awful lot of points at home. And I've got them finishing 10th. So that's my near misses. What about you, Joe?
Yeah, so obviously two of the names that we've already talked about in Southend and Scunthorpe, just missing out on the playoffs. Again, for the reasons that you've mentioned, I think the Callum Roberts factor could be a big one for them, the loss of him, and also Ollie Ewing as well to Forest Green. And I just don't know how to judge Kieran Dyer yet, because we haven't seen him. And rounding out my top 10, a team we haven't talked about yet, I have gone for Solihull Moors. Under Chris Millington, still, for me, one of the best managers in this division, consistently overperforms on his budget. The signings haven't been overly impressive for me this summer, albeit I said that probably on reflection when he made the signings that he did at FC Halifax and managed to guide them nearly into the playoffs. So a very steady pair of hands. They've got goals in their side. They've also got Joe Sabara in their side again, which I think is a real key for them. And they've got one of the best chairmen in Daryl Eales, who runs the club really well. So, yeah, I think that they will get into the top 10.
Brilliant stuff. And for you, Dickie, near misses or 8, 9, 10, whichever you like?
Yeah, well, I'd already mentioned Hartlepool, Scunthorpe. I think Scunthorpe will do well again, but again, exactly the same reasons you've said. The Roberts factor. They're also not so much of a surprise this season. I think they probably they might have even surprised themselves a little bit last season, but I think maybe fan expectation will weigh a little bit more heavily now because having, been up at the top last season, that there might be, a belief that they're going to kick on. Not sure that they will. And I have Southend United in my almost but not quite category as well. But honourable shouts there just behind those. I know we said 8 to 10. Sutton and Yeovil again. I don't think we'd want to be looking too far outside any of those for like top half. I think my top half looks fairly set, as does the bottom.
Yep, fair enough. And we're not going to do it extensively all the way 1 to 24. But in terms of the top half, I have got Yeovil and Solihull finishing next. We're going to move on to the really prickly subject, and they're so much harder to predict. Bottom four. This has been excruciating. It's so difficult. Every team starts the season with high expectations. Nobody's thinking our aim this season or our likely achievement is to finish in the bottom four or the bottom six or probably the bottom eight. It is so, so difficult. We're at most risk of making fools of ourselves, by picking a team to finish in the bottom four that may end up and go and surprise us in the playoffs. But that's what we're going to move on to next.